Aaron, I wanted to get your thoughts on a new tranche of Twitter files that have come out in a Matt Taibbi thread, because I think they kind of validate a lot of what you've been saying over the years about Russiagate, uh, pretty much since 2017. And also, it shows how the media operates within with how the media has been brought in as kind of enforcers of Russiagate. So this is a long thread. I don't even know where
Yeah.
to talk. But
Look,
this is a good one. Senate Intelligence Committee is asking, can we whip something together? Then BuzzFeed is threatening Twitter. This is from Yoel Roth, who's in charge of uh, Twitter moderation. And he's basically being asked to whip something together for the Senate Intelligence Committee, which answers also to the CIA. And BuzzFeed is breathing down their necks, kind of as the attack dog for the Intelligence Committee, demanding that they do something. What are they being asked to do something about? And what is making Yoel Roth so anxious here?
so the key thing about Russiagate is that every major plank of it was generated by Democratic Party operatives who then used their influence to basically launder their conspiracy theories about Trump and Russia influencing Americans via major US institutions, big tech, the FBI, and the media, who all were very dutiful in going along. So you have, just to summarize it briefly, you have the collusion angle, the conspiracy theory that Trump and Russia were engaged in some sprawling conspiracy and Russia
Yeah,
had blackmail leverage over Trump. That was generated by who? Christopher Steele, who was working for the Clinton campaign
right.
via Fusion GPS and Perkins Coie, the Democratic law firm. Okay, so that's collusion. The Russian hacking allegation, which is the foundational allegation of Russiagate. Who is that generated by? CrowdStrike. Who are they working for? The Clinton campaign. Hired
Yep.
pretty much at the exact same time that the Clinton campaign hired Christopher Steele.
And
And then you have
FBI.
well, yeah, and then the FBI then goes and relies on CrowdStrike's so-called forensics and relies on CrowdStrike's redacted reports that CrowdStrike redacts for itself. And CrowdStrike doesn't let the FBI access the Democratic Party servers that these Russians supposedly hacked, and nobody makes an issue out of that. And of course, years later, we learn that under oath, CrowdStrike admits that while they were privately claiming that Russia hacked the DNC, that actually they had no concrete evidence of that. That came out more than 2 years after the Mueller probe ended. A small little admission. So then you have this new aspect that we get more evidence from the Twitter files, which is the social media influence operation. So
Right.
the claim is, and this emerged in like the summer of 2017, that Russia had waged a sweeping social media campaign to brainwash millions of Americans into voting for Trump, not Hillary Clinton. One headline in the Times said something like Russian influence operation reached 126 million Americans on Facebook alone, right? Where did that come from? Democrats. We know this because there was an account in the Washington Post in 2017 that reported that Facebook initially did a review of suspect accounts around the 2016 election, looking specifically for the Russian government. What they found was that most of these accounts were just clickbait, seeking to attract viewers and then make money off of that, like attract an audience and then make money off it. Classic
Yeah.
clickbait operation.
Yeah.
And that's why most of their content wasn't even about the election. But then Democratic operatives got mad at that and they came up with their own theories. This is according to the Washington Post about what really happened. And what they came up with was that actually the Kremlin had directed a massive social media operation to influence Americans to sway the election. So those theories reached the FBI and then reached Mark Warner of the Senate Intelligence Committee. And then Mark Warner personally flew out to Facebook and said to them, basically, you have to validate this. And Facebook changed its tune. And so now, bringing us to the Twitter files, this is exactly what happened with Twitter. So Twitter initially did a review looking for anything to do with Russia on their site, trying to find some accounts that could be linked back to Russia. They couldn't find anything. The only thing they really found was Russia Today, which is the Russian television network, which was a television network, but back before it was banned after Russia invaded. But that was just like a television network advertising its content and sharing its content. So that was what Twitter found. And Mark Warner said to them, "That's not good enough. You need to find more." So what these Twitter fires reveal is this desperate scramble to appease Mark Warner. And why? Well, it's obvious because Mark Warner, as chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, has a huge amount of power. And these tech giants know that if they want to avoid excessive regulation from their point of view, they have to play ball. And if
Yeah.
they're under pressure from the national security state and from powerful politicians, that's going to create the incentive for them to go along with whatever they want. And so the Twitter files reveal extensively how Twitter scrambled to come up with anything that could feed this Russiagate mania, kind of like the plant in Little Shop of Horrors. Just the Russiagate, insatiable Russiagate thirst that needed to grow. And we have a clip, Max, if you want to play it, of Mark Warner complaining back in the fall of 2017, complaining after his initial meeting with Twitter that they weren't giving him what he wanted when it comes to validating these Russian social media claims.
I remember this from the time, just how telling it was. And well, here it is.
The Twitter team made to the Senate Intel staff today was deeply disappointing. The notion that their work was basically derivative based upon accounts that Facebook had identified showed an enormous lack of understanding from the Twitter team of how serious this issue is, the threat it poses to democratic institutions, and again, begs many more questions than they offered. Their response was, frankly, inadequate on almost every level.
So in other words, they just weren't giving them what they wanted, which was Twitter to say there are thousands and thousands of Russian bot accounts that are run by the FSB out of these IRA troll farms, and through Putin's chef Prigozhin, and they had meddled in the election. And there's actually, I don't have it in front of me, I don't have time to find it, but look in Taibbi's thread. There is an email, I don't know if it was from Yoel Roth, but a Twitter executive complaining that they can't give the intelligence committee what they want because it's not true, because all the accounts that they're finding, some of them have Russian phone numbers, but none of them are interested in the US. Some of them are involved in German politics, and they often appear to be real people. So they're like, what do we do? And then they start the debate internally. Well, we don't want to get hammered by BuzzFeed and get hammered in the media, so let's just essentially give them something to mollify them. And what they do first is they start sanctioning RT and Sputnik and say they're not allowed to take out ads and so on. And then they take all of their money that they paid to Twitter for ads, and they donated it, I think, to Robbie Mook's fake anti-disinformation center at Harvard. I mean, it all went there. So basically they're just like, here's a payoff, shut up. But it's all fake and we know it, but we're going to pretend it's true.
This really is one of the most laughable aspects of Russiagate, because at least with the claim that Russia stole the Democratic Party emails, at least you could argue that if that's true, I don't think it is true at this point based on all the evidence we have, but let's say it is true. You could argue that at least that might have influenced some percentage of the vote. Yeah, I don't think it was decisive, but some people might have read those Democratic Party emails that were stolen, and they show bias against Bernie Sanders, and they show corruption in the DNC and by Hillary Clinton. And I'm sure some people read those and said, all right, I'm not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. But the notion here, let's assume for a second that all these social media accounts were run by Vladimir Putin himself. The notion that these social media bots and memes that were traced to Russia could influence a single person to do anything is such a joke, because if you look at the actual content, they're just dumb memes. There's a meme of Yosemite Sam. There's the meme I've mocked endlessly of like a guy with a problem with masturbation, and here's, Jesus is consoling him. There we go. Buff Bernie.
Bernie. So this was a coloring book that was being sold by one of these IRA accounts, and I think they were just trying to increase engagement and maybe make money. I don't know what they were trying to do.
And this is what
the idea that this is Russian meddling that decided the election.
And it's a threat, like the way Mark Warner talks about it, it's a threat to our democracy. And Gerald Nadler was saying that this was akin to Pearl Harbor. And he says, yes, they didn't kill anybody, but they're trying to destroy our democracy with, for example, Buff Bernie
reported it. The woman who drew that Buff Bernie coloring book didn't know Russia made an ad. I feel violated and confused.
Yes. Such hard-headed
reporting. This is Hayes Brown, who's a former State Department and DHS guy. So he's basically, I think he's the one who was spearheading this whole campaign. And he's deeply connected to the national security state.
Yeah. And then there's actual figures like, a tiny fraction, and this is from the Senate's own reports, which I've written about. A tiny fraction of these memes and ads actually talked about the 2016 election. Most of them were just dumb memes that had nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
So Russiagate is so laughable on every level. But at least with the allegation that Russia stole the emails, at least somebody stole the emails, and at least those might have played a role. This one is just a complete McCarthyite, just like fabrication, and it's cartoonish because it's so dumb. The idea that these social media memes and bots could have influenced anybody.